Joining me now is Lauren Megaw. She's the head of investor relations for Reyna Silver. Great to see you.
Good to see you as well. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Yeah, we're going to kick things off here, and we're excited to hear about your company. You've got projects, multiple silver assets, potential for high-grade district scale, 2 in Mexico, 1 in Nevada.
Yep.
So broad strokes overview of the assets in the company.
So essentially our general thesis is if you're wanting to find something high enough grade that it could in the future make money even when silver is at, pick your personal nightmare. But it also has to be a big enough project, a district scale, so that it can survive through multiple market cycles and really take advantage of those highs when it goes to whatever your personal dreams and reality.
Let's call it 50 in the short term.
Whatever that happens to be, right? That's how you make big money. So the question is, how do you explore for projects that fit through that filter, fit those parameters? And our thesis is if you're going to do that, you should take what's called an ore systems approach. So looking at historic districts, have big scale, high grade production, and we're not looking for the next little, eking out the last little bit of it. We're looking for the other portion. With our modern understanding of what these styles of deposits do, going, okay, we know that half of the system produced 500 million ounces of silver, like our Gigi project. But from studying carbonate replacement deposits, CRDs, worldwide, we know that there is another half of the system that has to exist. Where is that? Is it in Gigi? So that is the approach that we're taking at all 3 projects. We're looking for the full big system. We're looking for the next big monster.
Let's talk about PLS. You're going to you're doing some drilling there, correct? What's the overall plan there?
So the overall plan is that we came into historically Mexico's highest grade silver district. The Spanish went in there looking for gold. They found native silver in outcrop and they chased it. And they produced, in its history, produced over 300 million ounces, average grade of 1,500 grams per ton silver. The main ore mineral was native silver. So we went in there and said, we're taking a district scale approach. Let's get out of the historic district, go up into the northeast following these structures. We found additional high-grade silver, and then we found gold. Mineable widths and grades of gold we weren't expecting to see. Over 3.5 meters of over 8 grams per ton gold. You go, how does this fit in? So we spent the last year doing geophysics, doing structure, and doing a big sampling survey, almost 2,600 samples. And those are where our targets came from. Putting together the pieces, and now we're going to go see whether or not we can find more of that high-grade silver and maybe even some more gold.
Exciting stuff, discovering that gold. Now, Medicine Springs, it's interesting. The company says that it displays 11 of 13 key features for these deposits you're talking about, CRDs. So you've done some airborne, and I think you're planning to drill in the summer, correct?
Yeah, so what we're doing there is we did reconnaissance in the fall because you're at this project, and it's just screaming at you, hey, there's something lurking at depth. And our question on the first drill hole, because we're not wanting to mess around with something that's going to be little. Our first question in reconnaissance was, do we have enough of the magic host rock? You can't have a carbonate replacement deposit without carbonates, right? It's kind of a key feature. Right. So our first drill hole was almost 800 meters. We spent almost the entire thing in carbonates. So check off, it has got room for growth. First hole, we hit over 1 kilo silver. Stepped out almost over 1.5 kilometers, hit again. Okay, now what our question is, how can we fill in some of those pieces in between? How do we get a sense of some of the relationships after we've done these reconnaissance holes, these widely spaced structures? Okay, let's get an idea, let's fill it in, put that together with the other data that we have for those drill targets and test in the summer.
And then moving on to Gigi, which you touched on. So your father did his doctoral thesis on this project.
Yes.
It's the flagship in Mexico. And you've touched on CRDs a little bit, but what is the overall appeal? It's the scale. What is it about the CRDs?
The beautiful thing about carbonate replacement deposits is that they're large, and particularly when they're large, they tend to get high grade, polymetallic, but metallurgically docile. So they're easy to pull the different elements apart. Really high grade recovery typically. And then on top of that, they're continuous and zoned. And so take it a little step back and try to translate what a carbonate replacement deposit is into English. So commonly when we talk about CRDs, we talk about an intrusive with acidic mineralized fluid coming off of it. It goes into structures. It reacts with that magic host rock, that carbonate. You get those, do you ever do those paper mache volcanoes, the baking soda and the vinegar, and you get that acid-base reaction and it makes all the fluff?
A long time ago.
So that's the reaction that's happening underground. And when that happens, the goodies drop out. Another way to think about it, now mind you, we're in New York City, so maybe this isn't the best example, but think of it like a public transportation system. You have your bus terminal, right? That's your source intrusive. And then you've got a bus that's leaving out along routes, and it's dropping elements off at different places. That's that zonation that we talk about it. So you've got your bus terminal, you have your proximal scar, and that's like your downtown area. So copper, lead, zinc, your gold grades might be a little bit more elevated. You still got silver, but it might be a little bit lower, but voluminous. As you make your way out to the system to what we call our chimney manto, that's sort of the historic carbonate replacement deposit, like key thing that people think about. That's like your suburbs. Your silver grade goes way up. It's a little bit more structurally controlled. And then at the very end, the elements that fell asleep on the back of the bus get off. And so what that allows us to do is vector our way through the system. So the premise at Gigi is we know that one bus route, 2 bus routes, produced 500 million ounces of silver in the suburbs. That bus terminal and that downtown area, that proximal scar, we haven't found it yet. But we know it exists. And if you have that big of a suburb, where's the other part? On top of that, how many big cities have you been in that only have like 2 or 3 bus routes, right? So that's our premise at Gigi, and that's what we're looking to do there. And the research, the 1,200 pages of the PhD thesis, I mean, it's like a tome.
Right.
Says that comes from our Gigi area.
Okay. Thank you for that visual and that analogy. That's helpful. It makes it more understandable. So lastly here, Lauren, management team at Reyna Silver, advisory board, they've sort of been there, done that. They've made discoveries before. They've had success. So wrap it up with a bow here for us, for investors, the overall investment case.
The overall investment case is if you want to get behind a group, big discoveries, the same geos that are our project geos. It's not just my dad who's made a big discovery at Mag Silver. There's a team behind that. That's the team that's working on our 2 projects in Mexico. And on top of that, you've got our CEO, Jorge Ramiro Monroy, who has the experience and the depth in raising money in the capital structure that's developed a really well-balanced investor register. You put those elements together and it gives us access to capital. It allows us to drill. And we're going for something big. We're not messing around. That does mean we're higher risk, but that's also how you make the really big upside as well.
Right. Well, great talking to you today, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And, if people want to, they should check us out on LinkedIn or Twitter or on our website and subscribe to the newsletter and keep up to date with what we're up to this next year.
Okay, well, thanks again. We'll see you down the road.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Lauren Megaw, she's the head of investor relations for Reyna Silver.